Good morning and welcome to today's Fridays with Vistage webinar. Before we get started, I'd like to go over some items to help you participate in today's webinar. If you are experiencing technical difficulties joining the webinar session, please dial LogMeIn support at 888-259-8414. During the presentation, all participants will be in listen-only mode. To submit a written question at any time during the event, type your question in the Q&A panel at the bottom of the control panel and click Send. I would now like to introduce the moderator for today's webinar, Bill Black.
Welcome to Fridays with Vistage. My name is Bill Black. I'm the host of Exit Coach Radio and a Vistage member. I'll be your moderator for today's webinar. Today's webinar is entitled Market Smarter with Next Generation Competitive Analysis. You're going to learn about the evolving nature and the importance of ongoing competitive analysis to accelerate business performance. You're going to leave with new perspectives on competitive analysis, a framework for conducting a basic digital competitive analysis, and real examples for how data can be translated into action as well as improved business performance. Our speaker today is Ben Landers. He's the CEO of Blue Corona, and he's a passionate entrepreneur with more than 10 years of experience in the digital marketing and analytics industry. Ben and the Blue Corona team have helped hundreds of companies accurately track and optimize their advertising campaign performance and get more leads and sales from the web. After starting his career in online media, recruitment advertising, and software sales at hotjobs.com, Ben spent time in the telecommunications industry and later went on to become the East Coast Regional Manager of an advertising and marketing agency. Shortly thereafter, Ben met Bob Perini, and together they developed the concept that would become Blue Corona. Ladies and gentlemen, Ben Landers.
Thank you. Thanks, Bill. Thanks for the kind words, and welcome, everyone. I hope you're having a great Friday. We're going to be talking today about the next generation of competitive analysis and really how you can utilize it to market smarter. As Bill mentioned, Blue Corona is an analytics and digital marketing company. Now, analytics in our world is all about translating data into actionable insights. And digital competitive analysis is a great example of that. Another practical example is tracking advertising and marketing. A lot of companies, especially small, medium-sized businesses, don't really know how their different advertising and marketing investments are actually performing. So as a service, we overlay our tools and technologies like a net around every advertising and marketing investment a company is making, and we produce custom reports to show our clients exactly which investments are generating the best results in terms of leads, sales. We can even track revenue and gross profit. Now, analytics, competitive analysis, ad tracking, those inform what we do as a digital marketing company. We're a full-service digital marketing company. Our clients range from small, medium-sized local businesses. We have clients all over the country, to national, international, publicly traded firms. We can help a company with one aspect of their digital marketing, or we can manage everything like an in-house team. So we can build their website, manage the website, and drive, and we can also create campaigns to drive traffic, leads, and sales with content marketing, email marketing, search engine optimization, social media. We handle it all. Sorry, I had a quick Windows update there. I'm a Vistage member, and Blue Corona is a Vistage National Alliance partner. That's part of why I'm speaking to you today. What we're going to be covering, we're going to really go through three things. We're going to start with the evolution of competitive analysis. What's possible with competitive analysis today is very different than what's been possible in the past. And a lot of business owners and CEOs continue to use frameworks that are more than 50 years old when it comes to doing competitive analysis. So we're going to talk about the evolution. Along those lines, I'm going to provide you with a new framework. I'm going to provide you with a new framework for digital competitive analysis, something that you can use to really get ahead and stay relevant in the connected age. And finally, we're going to go from analysis. We're going to use some data from actual Vistage member companies. We're going to use some of that data to move from analysis to application, how you can put this to use when the webinar ends. So let's start with the evolution. Again, competitive analysis has changed, and to really see that, I want to take you on a trip back in time. Let's go back to the 1950s, 60s, and 70s. Some of you probably remember this. This is the SR-71 Blackbird. This plane was built in the early 1960s really to do one thing. The plane was built to collect competitive intelligence. It was a spy plane. Now, at the time, and even to this day, this plane was a technological marvel. It flew at 85,000 feet, and from that altitude, it could read a license plate. From 16 miles straight up, it could read or see the dimples on a golf ball on a green. And just, again, think back to the early 60s. Just amazing. What's also amazing is the SR-71 did not have on board a single weapon. All it had was camera equipment and a couple pilots. And that's because if a missile was fired at the SR-71, the pilot would simply push down the throttle and accelerate. The SR-71 traveled at Mach 3 more than 2,200 miles an hour, and they would outrun the threat. We didn't lose a single one of these planes to enemy action. But despite this plane being so technologically advanced back then, it's been replaced today. This plane has been retired in the form of new technology like satellites and computers. Advancements in technology have changed the way we collect competitive intelligence. They're also changing the way we conduct and perform competitive analysis. When I'm talking with CEOs, and I present at a lot of the Vistage executive summits, when I'm talking to CEOs about competitive analysis, I ask them, what's the first thing that comes to mind? And a lot of people say SWOT. The SWOT analysis framework: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. Some people with an MBA or that have worked at bigger companies before starting their own are also familiar with Michael Porter's 5 forces. That's the framework that you see on the right. Now, both of these, what I'll call traditional frameworks, continue to enjoy tremendous popularity today, and they are very valuable. I've performed a SWOT analysis on Blue Corona's business. I've been part of the process with some of our clients, sometimes involving third-party consultants. And so I can say that both of these frameworks are very valuable. But they have the SWOT analysis framework was created in the 1960s, and Michael Porter's 5 forces really came out in the late 70s in response to perceived shortcomings with the SWOT framework. So both of these frameworks have been in existence for a long time, and they do have some drawbacks. And the most significant drawback I see is the subjectivity that goes into the analysis. What exactly constitutes a strength, a weakness, an opportunity, a threat? How do you weight those different things against one another? And so sometimes I've had clients where they're left with an analysis that, while interesting, is difficult to take action on. We had one client where they had a difficult time selling the output of the analysis to their executive team because of the subjectivity that was involved. Now, there's a new form of competitive analysis, and it often looks something like this, or it looks something like this. This new form of competitive analysis is digital, and it really emphasizes the collection and analysis of objective data. Now, there are all sorts of advantages to doing things this way, to focusing on objective data. For one, this is a screenshot from a piece of software that we have. There are a lot more metrics in it, but this is about what I could fit on a screen. One of the advantages of collecting objective data and doing so in a framework like this is if you collect the data on a regular basis. We collect data weekly. We often analyze it once a month. We dig into it deeper once a quarter, and of course even deeper when we're doing annual planning. But when you're collecting data like this in this objective framework, you're really able to see trends and what's happening. So for example, for Blue Corona, I know which of my competitors are testing pay-per-click advertising, as an example. I know which of our competitors have gone, quote-unquote, all in with content marketing. I know which of our competitors have tested or are testing every design element of their website and split testing different page designs to see what works and what doesn't. I can see all that information because I'm collecting the data on a regular basis and looking at what's changing in objective terms. Now, this new form of competitive analysis, this digital competitive analysis, is of course possible because the technology has evolved. It's also possible because the way we consume media has changed. So think back to when watching television looked something like this. You know, we used to sit kind of together in one room, all hunkered around a gigantic television, not a gigantic television screen, just a gigantic box, piece of furniture that included the television inside. You actually had to get up to change the channel. Some of you listening to this call were the original remote control. I know I was in our family. Now the good news is you only had like 5 channels to choose from, and you probably sat a couple feet from the TV. And in terms of quantifying the audience, who's watching what, we had the Nielsen set meter. Now I've given lots of presentations involving this slide, and I always ask people, has anyone ever had a Nielsen set meter installed in their house? And out of probably 1,000 plus people that I've asked, I've had one person that had a Nielsen set meter at their house. So, but that was the technology that we had in order to quantify who is watching what channels, what shows, and at what time. I just got a question, or someone made a comment that they had a Nielsen set meter. That is fantastic. That is now, I now have 2 out of probably 1,000 people asked, which is pretty cool. Now, if you think about how television, how we consume media today, it looks a lot more like this. So we may all still be sitting in front of the television. The screen has increased in size significantly. The number of channels has increased exponentially. And we often all have a second screen in front of us. So maybe dad in the picture here is on Facebook, arguing with friends about politics. That seems to be a common thread today on Facebook. You have little Susie, the daughter, texting with her friends, wired in, or maybe uploading content to some app that we've never heard of. And then you have Junior over there, maybe playing video games on his iPad, or my favorite, and for those of you with kids between 7 and 12, you probably know what I'm about to say, watching videos of other people playing video games. It's like so alien to me, but that's what my son, who's 9, does. So the way we consume media has changed. We're often still in front of the television, but now we have a second screen. On that second screen, we are connected, and we're not just consuming information, we're also uploading and adding information. Does this look familiar? Those of you with kids or that haven't been living under a rock for the last 10 years, this is the world around us. It's in every Starbucks. It's in every mall. Unfortunately, sometimes you see this on the highway. People glued to their mobile device. People glued to their phone. Now, in some ways, this is the world around us. It almost becomes ubiquitous. You see it everywhere. You don't even think about it. And while very few of us have seen the Nielsen set meter, again, I've had 2 in the last 1,000 or so people that I've talked to, virtually every single person on this webinar has tracking cookies on their desktop computer, their laptop, their tablet, and their phone from all the websites that you've been visiting over the last couple weeks and months. And savvy companies and savvy marketers are harvesting that data and using it as a competitive advantage. They're using it to market smarter. And that's really one of the things that we're talking about today. We're talking about data collection because data collection is at the heart of competitive analysis. This is especially true with digital competitive analysis, where we're focusing on the collection and analysis of objective data. So you could apply the SWOT framework. You certainly could apply Porter's 5 forces to your digital presence. But where would you start? What would you look at? What kind of order should you follow? I thought it would be helpful to provide you with an example of a new framework, something that you can use to do a digital competitive analysis of your business, and to sort of test the framework. Our team has analyzed. We've used this simplified digital competitive analysis framework to analyze more than 1,000 Vistage member companies from all over the country. And I do want to be clear, the framework that I'm about to walk you through is an ultra-simplified version of what we do when a company hires us to perform a digital competitive analysis. When we're doing digital competitive analysis on a paid basis, we look at 1,000+ different factors and data points. We use our own software and other paid softwares to do that work. We can look at 100 companies in a landscape. We've even done an analysis of an entire industry to see what the digital trends are. So what we're going to go through today is really a simplified framework. I wanted to provide you with something that you could use on your own with free tools that are commonly available, something that you could use to assess your digital presence and your competitors and then take action. And so I'm going to walk you through this is the second part of our presentation. We've talked about the evolution of competitive analysis. I'm going to give you a new framework that you can use. I'm going to walk you through each component. There are 5. And I'm going to explain what the component is, why it's important, and how it can be measured, or how we measured it in this simplified framework. And then we're going to talk about the application. So let's go through this kind of piece by piece. And the first component, and what we're really going to focus today's presentation on when it comes to the application, is tracking and analytics. So that's the first thing we're going to talk about. Now, I talked about data collection. There is a sea of data available on the web. But in order to access and make sense of that data, you need special tools. And there are hundreds, if not 1,000+ tracking and analytics tools available. What I'm about to show you is a small subset. There are tracking tools that you can use and should be using to quantify and measure your website activity. Things like Google Analytics are free. And then you have some paid tools as well. And again, there are hundreds of tools that you can use to track and quantify your website activity. You have tools that you can use to identify your target audience, when your target audience is visiting your website and where they go once they leave your site. There are tools you can use to quantify your search visibility, your visibility on sites like Google, and compare that to your competitors. There are tools you can use to automate different parts of your marketing. It's like junior artificial intelligence, that you can use some of these softwares to automate some of what used to be a very manual job. And finally, there are also tools you can use to optimize your website. We talk a lot about conversion rate optimization, and the conversion for a lot of companies is a visitor to your website converting into a lead. And so how do we improve the percentage of visitors that come to our website and convert into a lead? There's software tools that you can use to help improve that conversion rate. When you're measuring your tracking and analytics, say sophistication or capabilities, in this simplified framework, we're looking at for the presence of different tools, and we're looking at the number of tools that we find. And again, in a simplified analysis, if a company has one tool in place like Google Analytics, and a competitor has Google Analytics and 3 or 4 other tools, it's pretty safe to assume that the competitor with more tools have more capabilities in terms of tracking and analytics, and they're probably more sophisticated in that regard. So that's one thing I recommend you do, and what we did in this simplified framework. A second component of our simplified framework is accessibility. And with this, we're really focusing on the accessibility of a company's website. So how easy is the site to access? No matter what industry you're in, the argument can be made that your website is one of your most valuable marketing assets, if not your most valuable marketing asset. And so it's really important that the website be fast, that it's fast to load. So when we think about accessibility, we kind of break it into three subcomponents. Site speed is the first one. The second one is whether the site is mobile friendly or not. Obviously, people access the web via a wide variety of devices, and those devices have different size screens and different types of functionality. And so do the elements, the visual elements, and the usability elements of your website adjust automatically to the different device that's being used to access the site. That's the mobile, whether the site's mobile friendly or not. And then there's site security, which is somewhat new on the scene, and we'll talk a little bit more about each one of these. And I'd encourage you, as you think about accessibility, to just think about the number one reason that people leave websites. If you're to kind of think about yourself as a consumer and think about the times that you've gone to a website and then left, and the number one reason when people are surveyed tends to be site speed. This is a survey done by Google. 70% of folks say that they'll leave a site. The number one reason that they leave a site is because it's too slow to load. It should be pointed out that, again, surveys have shown that a lot of consumers, in this case, in this survey, 40%, will abandon a website that takes longer than 3 seconds to load. Now, that may seem, 3 seconds may seem fast to you, it may seem unbelievably slow. There's a tool called Pingdom. And Pingdom is a tool that tests, and they have a service that will help you improve your website speed. They did of all of the sites that submitted, that went to Pingdom, and they put in their website to test their website load speed. Out of all the sites were kind of pushed through the Pingdom system in 2016, the average load time was 5 seconds, which I can tell you from all the work that we've done is a pretty slow website. Consumers today want things, and they want them immediately. So 5 seconds is way too long to wait for a website to load. Now, along, kind of thinking about how much traffic comes from mobile devices, a lot of times this is underestimated, especially in the business-to-business marketing world. People underestimate how much traffic is coming from mobile devices. In the U.S., 57% of all website traffic is coming from mobile phones, mobile devices, 32% from desktops, and 11% from tablets. I was asked at the Vistage Executive Summit in Houston, is the Microsoft Surface categorized as a desktop or a tablet? And I looked it up. It's actually a tablet. And so 68% of people accessing the site in the U.S. are really doing so through some sort of mobile device, a mobile phone or a tablet. And so you have to make sure that your website is mobile friendly. Walker Sands is a PR and B2B marketing communications company, and they estimated or did a study that showed that 33% of B2B website traffic is coming from mobile devices, and as you might expect, it really peaks from noon and beyond. So from 9 to noon, people are on their laptop and their desktop, and then in the afternoon, they're increasingly mobile. Now, we also talked about accessibility coming down to site security. Blue Corona is an example of a secure site. When you look at Blue Corona's site, you can see that it ends in an S, HTTPS, and the S stands for secure, as you might imagine. Now, if you use Google Chrome, which is probably the most popular browser, at least in the U.S., or Mozilla Firefox, if you visit bluecorona.com on either of those sites, you'll see a little eye icon and a lock icon right next to our URL. And if you click the eye icon, you get a little pop-out box that says that our site is secure. Now, if you contrast that with a site that isn't secure, right now, you just get an eye icon. Okay, in the very near future, you're going to get in some browsers like Google Chrome, you're going to get the eye icon with this symbol. So just like secure sites have the eye icon in a lock, in the future, sites that are not secure will get the eye icon in a red triangle. Now, site security is important for a number of different reasons. I'm going to give you I'll give you two basic reasons. One, as soon as the website browsers make this shift where they're showing that red triangle, consumer behavior is going to change. This will become the equivalent to when you Google something and in the search results you see a listing that says, this site may harm your computer. Anyone who's seen that knows that you do not click on those types of listings. So consumer behavior is going to change as the browsers change these icons. The second reason that you should pay attention to site security is a bigger deal, which is that Google says that it's important. They believe that it's important. I'm a digital marketer, so I eat, breathe, and sleep what Google thinks is important. For those of you not in that space, know this. Google makes a suggestion like make your site faster, make your site mobile friendly, or make your site secure. First, they pose it as a suggestion. They tell you why it's important. And then some period of time later, 12 to 16 months after they tell you that you should do this, they apply a higher weight to that factor in their organic ranking algorithm. And all of a sudden, websites that are secure start to occupy more space in the organic search results. In September 2016, roughly 30% of the first page of organic search results on Google were secure. Just 9 months later, in April 2017, it's up to 50%. This is a survey done by a company called Moz. So what we've noticed is that all things equal, secure sites tend to rank higher in the organic search results than non-secure sites. So you want to make your site secure. The third component of our framework is content. We're really talking about the content on your website. So your home page, your about page, your services pages, case studies. If you have case studies on your website, each of those is typically a page of content. Blog posts. 39% of the Vistage members that we surveyed, of more than 1,000 Vistage members, are blogging. And so blog posts are a page type. You have gallery pages, white papers if you're in the IT or B2B space. And these are all different types of pages. Now, you should analyze your content and your competitors' content, one, because content is what's selling your visitors and turning your visitors, hopefully, into leads. But there's another benefit to having content, lots of content on your site. Google doesn't rank websites. Google ranks website pages. So again, all things being equal, websites that have more pages generate more traffic, more visitors, more leads, and more sales. Everyone has the world's largest library in their pocket with their mobile phone. And when they do a search, pages will come up, and whether those pages are your site's pages or competitors really comes down to how much content you have on your site and how well you've done anticipating what people are searching for when they're looking for companies like yours. To measure content in a simplistic way, something that you could do on your own, you could look at the number of pages on your website. I've been in a lot of workshops where I ask CEOs of companies, do you know how many pages on your website? And I would say about 30% of the audience seems to know. That would be a good sort of thing to understand, just to know about a 30-page website, a 300-page website, or 3,000-page website. You also might want to look at whether, for example, your site has a blog or whether you haven't started blogging yet, and then evaluate whether your competitors have a blog or not, and then how frequently the blog posts are being published. There are B2B marketers that will blog multiple times a day. And there are companies that blog fewer than one time per month. So you want to look at whether the number of pages to get an idea of the site size and you want to look at whether your competitors have a blog or no blog, and how frequently are they updating that blog. And we'll talk about how you can use this information in a later webinar. The fourth component is search visibility. With search visibility, we're talking about, in our case, the organic search visibility. Search engines drive 70% of all website traffic, and search traffic is particularly valuable because people using search demonstrate their intent to do something with the keywords that they use. So people using search show that they want to know, they're doing research, they want to go, they want to do, and they want to buy. And so if you're a small, medium-sized company with a limited budget for search marketing, you could focus your search visibility efforts on really what I would consider the lower funnel keywords, which would be buy-oriented terms. Bigger company could focus, you could come up with 50 different keyword phrases for each sort of segment, from research and consideration all the way down to the buy terms. And when you're doing digital competitive analysis, you want to look at, you really want to come up with a list of keywords. I suggest about 200, but you can use more, you can use fewer if you choose, and really focus on your top 10 rankings, the top 10 of Google Organic Search. That broadly or loosely equates to the first page of search results. The first page of search results are estimated to get about 70 to 75% of the clicks. And so you come up with a set of keywords and then look to see how visible your site is versus your competitors for those target keywords. The last component of the simplified framework is social audience and reviews. And you think about just how many people these days have a Facebook account. It's a staggering 79% of all U.S. online adults use Facebook, and that equates to 68% of all adults. So 79% of adults that are online have a Facebook account. People often check it every single day. Some people start the day with it. They use Facebook for news. They use it for entertainment. People increasingly use it for customer service. Just to give you a personal example, I flew to the Vistage Executive Summit in Houston on Southwest. I don't fly Southwest very often. I did the early bird check-in, and I didn't know, does that still mean I have to check in, or does the early bird check-in purchase automatically check me in? I tried calling Southwest, and after being on hold for 5 minutes, said, that's not worth it. I tried replying to the early bird check-in email. I got no response. I tweeted Southwest Airlines and asked them my question and received an answer minutes later. And so you really need to think about social media sites like Facebook as a communication channel, a customer service channel. Today's consumer decides how they want to get in touch with you. And if you're on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and you're not responsive, you're not listening, and you're not responding, it's like there's a phone ringing in your office and no one's monitoring it. So think of it like a communication channel. Some people use Facebook like their own private Angie's list, where they'll ask for recommendations about a doctor or what they should see when they go to a city or a new location. And it's not limited just to retail type queries. Here's someone asking for health insurance recommendations for their business. They have a business in Michigan with 43 people, and so they're asking for recommendations. So part of the analysis is looking at how big your audience is on sites like Facebook and LinkedIn, and how does that compare to your competitors. The bigger your audience is, the more you can almost create like an informal network of brand ambassadors, people willing to recommend you when someone asks a query like this. Who are people going to recommend? They're going to recommend the companies that they're familiar with, and being connected socially helps with that. LinkedIn is also important. We talked about these sites as a communication channel. Take a look at, when you used to advertise in traditional media, you were renting the audience from the media company. Today, on social sites, you have to create your own audience. So looking at, again, how big your audience is, when you're uploading content about your business to your LinkedIn page, how much value you get out of it is going to be dependent on the number of followers you've built. So the more followers you can generate, the more valuable the content, that communication channel is going to be. The more people that are going to see and hopefully engage with your content. So that's social. I said we're going to look at social, audience, and reviews. Reviews fall into two categories. You have client and customer reviews. Obviously, if you're in a business to consumer space, this is very, very important. But even for folks on the B2B side, anyone who has a marketing company on this call, I know Blue Corona gets reviews online, and so a lot of other business-to-business services do as well. You also have to think about employee reviews. And so when you're doing kind of an analysis of your digital presence, you want to look at how many reviews do you have? Are they positive or negative? And then also look on sites like Glassdoor. You can learn an enormous amount about your competitors on those sites. Reviews matter because 84% of people polled say they trust an anonymous online review as much as a review or referral recommendation from a family member or a friend, which is really a shift, I think, in the way people think about things. So a lot of people put weight in these anonymous online reviews, and so you need to look at how your reviews compare to your competitors. And again, I mentioned not just limiting that to what your customer or your client reviews say, but also go on to Glassdoor and look your company up, look up your competitors, and take a look at some of the reviews and what people are saying. You can learn an enormous amount about how people perceive your company, your interview process, and working for your company. You can also learn a lot about your competitors. And again, you'd be amazed at what people say and some of the recurring themes that you can find. This review that you're looking at right now talks about how the management of this company created a process for everything, up to and including how to flush one of the toilets. Does that sound like a company you would want to work for? Hopefully not. So you can learn a lot from doing competitive analysis and looking at social and looking on sites like Glassdoor. To measure it, we look at the audience size. So that's a pretty easy thing to do. Go to Facebook, go to LinkedIn, and look at the size of your audience versus your competitors. You want to look at customer ratings. So do you have 50 client reviews and with an average 2-star rating, or do you get a 4-star rating? That's important. And then also look at employee ratings, both the number of reviews a company has as well as the sentiment of those reviews. Now we've gone through the evolution of competitive analysis. We've gone through a framework that you can use, that you can perform with free tools. We're going to kind of shift gears and dig deeper into the application. I want to leave you with something that you can do when this webinar is over on your own. Now today's webinar, as I mentioned, we're really going to dig deeper on tracking and analytics. We have 3 more webinars that we're going to be doing throughout the year. And in those future webinars, we're going to dig deeper on some of the other components of this framework. So today we're really going to focus on tracking and analytics. Again, we measure that by looking for the presence of tools and looking at the number of tools. And the reason that we're starting with tracking, the reason we put that first in our framework, is because without the right tracking tools in place, you really can't market intelligently unless you have good tracking tools in place and you have them customized in the right way for your business. And our mantra at Blue Corona is to track, test, tweak based on the data, and then repeat this cycle. If there's a magic bullet when it comes to marketing, it's this process. Track everything as best you can, get the right tools in place, customize them for your business, run tests, which are your campaigns, and then make adjustments based on the data, and then repeat the process. So this is our mantra. Just ingrain that into your head. Now, the way you get this information, I told you that you could get this information with tools that are mostly free. Builtwith.com is a tool that you can go to. It's a website that you can go to. There's a free version and a paid version. You only need the free version to get a considerable amount of information to keep you busy. You go to builtwith.com, you enter in a competitor's website, and you click Look Up. And when you do that, you're going to get the technology profile that's underlying that website, that competitor. BuiltWith does a great job of categorizing different tools and technologies under different headings, which you can see in green in that screenshot. And so we can use this to really dig in deeper and say, what analytics and tracking tools, or which analytics and tracking tools do my competitors have? And I would also focus on advertising tools, kind of what BuiltWith calls advertising tools. So really look at what your competitors have. And if you go to builtwith.com, you plug in your website, you plug in your competitors' sites, and you pull the data out and put it into Excel, you can come up with a little graph. And maybe you can lay it out something like this. What we're looking at here, this is a Vistage member from, they're a commercial service company. I made this anonymous, so we're not gonna throw anyone under the bus here. We're looking at the advertising tools and analytics tools as categorized by BuiltWith. And so the blue bar represents the analytics tools. Purple, when you see it, represents the advertising tools. So just look for a second at this landscape. And imagine this were your company. Now, one sort of obvious question is, well, what are the tools that BuiltWith found? So in this case, every company in the landscape had Google Analytics. But company C also had an advertising tool, which is called DoubleClick. DoubleClick's owned by Google, and it's really a network that allows you to push or just show display ads for your business, to your target audience when set up correctly. And so again, if you're this Vistage member, one way to look at it is to say, and I'll also tell you that BuiltWith can find a couple different versions of analytics. So there are about 4 or 5 different flavors of Google Analytics, and it has found 2 across all of these sites. That's what you're looking at. And so one way to look at this, if you're the Vistage member, is to say, look, if I'm interested in growing my business, I might want to look into DoubleClick and see what this tool is all about. What can it help me do? Another interpretation is my landscape is the folks in my landscape aren't terribly sophisticated. And so if you think back to kind of the SWOT, framework, there's an opportunity here to invest in tracking and analytics tools and really become a landscape leader within this commercial service segment. So that's how you can kind of use this information to market smarter. You think about what information you want about your website, what tools can you use to get that. Here's another example. This is a manufacturing company or a set of manufacturing companies, the Vistage members on the left. And so now we see every company with Google Analytics. 3 of the 4 companies are using DoubleClick. Somewhat interesting. Our Vistage member has Facebook Custom Audiences, which is a tool or an analytical tool created by Facebook that helps you grow your audience on Facebook or better market to your target audience on Facebook. And I should point out that this company, this Vistage member, has 40,000 Facebook followers. And look at their competitors. Most of them have 1,000 or fewer, or all of them have 1,000 or fewer Facebook followers. And so, if you're trying to build up, this Vistage member has clearly said, I'm going to put a foothold into, I'm going to build up an audience on Facebook, and I'm going to figure out whether I can monetize it and get value from it. They're using Facebook Custom Audiences as a tool, and using that to really put a lot of distance between them and their competitors. Now, even if you're the landscape leader, which the Vistage member is in this case, there's still things that you can learn from your competitors. So this company B, as I've called them, has Heatmap, which is a free software to produce, as you might expect, heat maps. If you're not familiar with heat mapping is a way to display website activity in a visual output like this. It shows you where people are clicking, where they're hovering their mouse, where they're paying attention on your website. And you can use it to optimize your website's layout to improve whatever action you're trying to get people to take. And the screenshot that you're looking at is a case study for North Face, and it was taken from one of the heat mapping software companies' websites. And so if you have a competitor that's using heat mapping, one thing to look at is look at the layout of their website. If their website seems like it's recently been designed, they might have used the heat mapping software to inform the new design. If their website's antiquated, they may be trying to figure out what parts of our current site are working and which parts need to be changed and improved in a redesign. We'll look at a couple more examples. Here's a set of government contractors, Vistage members on the left. Everyone has Google Analytics. One company is using DoubleClick. Two companies have marketing automation software. One of them is marketing automation software with Salesforce, which is a CRM, a customer relationship management tool. And then our landscape leader has two tools which really help identify which companies are visiting your website. Kickfire identifies the companies on your website in many cases, and Bombara identifies visitor intent. And you got to look into their, Google them to learn more. But the point is if you're the Vistage member, in this case, your competitors have some serious sophistication in terms of the tools that they're using, and you really want to think about your business and should you test and try some of those tools. Visitor identification, to show you what I mean by that, this is from Kickfire. We have Kickfire on the Blue Corona site. Ken Piper and Associates is a high-end remodeling company. We can see that they got to the Blue Corona site through House, looked at a couple pages, spent considerable time on the site. You click this, which goes to our Salesforce account. Ken Piper is not one of our current prospects, and so maybe we send Ken Piper's office a case study about House marketing. Wouldn't that be coincidental? And probably would make Ken and his staff a lot more, if it doesn't scare them, a lot more open to taking our call when we follow up. One of the points that I'm trying to make here is you want to look beyond your competitors. So a great exercise to do with your Vistage group, you probably have 10 or 15 members in your group. Ask folks what tools they have installed on their website, which tools do they like, what information do those tools give them. This is an actual Vistage group. As you can see, there's one member of the group that doesn't have a single tool on the site, and the leader in this group has 8 advertising tools and 11 analytics tools and could probably give a seminar to everyone else in the group about what these tools can do. So look beyond just your competitors. One other thing I want to impress upon you is it's not he or she with the most tools wins. This is a $4 million IT company. This is a $40 million IT company. As you can see, the $40 million company has far fewer tools. But I'll also tell you that this $40 million company went through a process to arrive at these 6 tools. I have a paid version of BuiltWith, which allows me to see the number of tools that a company has over time. And so I can start to see how they arrived at the final tool set that they have. And this is the $40 million company from the previous slide. So it's not, I don't want you to go out and acquire a whole bunch of tools and then have them like gym memberships that you never really use. I want you to review your competitors. I want you to think about the information that you want from your website. You really got to think about what information do you want from your site that you don't get today, and use this as context when you're doing digital competitive analysis. The way to market smarter is to understand what you want, what you need, what you could benefit from, then look at your competitors and figure out how to close those gaps. Maybe you want to know how visible your website is, like on search engines or on the web. Maybe you want to know how many quote-unquote real prospects are visiting your site. What are your site's most and least valuable pages? Do you have any idea? What are the most effective and the least effective design elements on your website? There are web development firms that are really run by artists, and then there are web development firms that are really run by analytically driven, data-driven engineering type designers, and they operate in very different ways. And finally, You might want to know what percentage of your visitors are really converting into leads, and I'll just dig into these briefly. With site visibility, this is from our tool. We have a tool that assesses that. We can look at your first page visibility, your total ranked keywords, in this case for close to 9,000 keywords. People that are investing a lot in search engine optimization typically want a really rich perspective of how well they're ranking. There are a lot of other tools that you can use, Moz and Ahrefs and SEMrush. Just you can Google keyword ranking tools and you'll get hundreds of them. You can also get a lot of that information from Google Analytics, which is free. As you can see here, if you connect your Google Analytics account to Search Console, Google Search Console, you can click Queries and actually see the different queries that your site's ranking for, how many clicks you're getting, how many impressions, the average position on the first page or in Google. And I can tell you that the #1 organic ranking typically gets a click-through rate of about 30 to 31%. So when we look down here and see water heater whistling, this is an HVAC company, and we see that we rank #1 for this query, but we're only getting about 21% of the clicks. We might look and say, what page is ranking for this? And is there a reason that people aren't clicking it? Why are they bypassing that? When you look down at this query, where we're #1, air conditioner won't blow cold air, we're getting about a 31% click-through rate. So this page, whatever's ranking for this keyword, people are really responding to as we would expect based on studies of the first page. Whereas on this one, there might be an opportunity to improve things. So again, showing you how tracking and analytical tools can help you market your business smarter. You have to have Search Console connected. So customization should be a real recurring theme in this presentation. It's not just about having the tools. You have to customize the tools for your business. When I say how many real prospects are visiting your site, there are two ways to think about real prospects. For those of you that are in a business that is geographically where you target people from a particular geography, this is a small residential plumbing company in Maryland, only serving Maryland. So they may get 529 sessions, people coming to their site each month, but only 128 of those are from Maryland. Okay, so you really want to customize the tools that you do have to be specific to your business, because a lot of web marketing firms will just show you this gross visitor number, and that's inaccurate to say the least. Another way to think about how many real prospects are coming to your site is, if you're in the B2B space, is which companies are coming to your site. And these are some of the tools that you can use. There are hundreds that you can use to identify the actual companies that are visiting your website. When I said most and least valuable pages, again, this is using Google Analytics. And you can categorize your pages by creating content groupings. And then you can see which of your pages are really the most effective at converting visitors into these conversions, in this case, are leads. And so which of these pages is the most effective and the least effective? Like in this case, that blog needs to be, these types of pages need to be evaluated, or our strategy there needs to be adjusted or reevaluated. Most and least effective design elements. These are, as far as I know, CohnReznick is not a Vistage member. I looked them up. I'm a member, so I could see that. This is a very non-standard website layout with this left-hand nav and right-hand nav. But I will say CohnReznick has Google Analytics installed with Google Tag Manager, which is an advanced implementation. And my guess is they are testing every different aspect of this page to see how many people are using this non-standard nav. And I'm going to pay careful attention to see what they end up doing with this homepage, because I can almost be assured that it was based on data. And if anyone else noticed, take a look at that. Talk about terrible user experience. I can't read purple on dark gray. And my guess is you're going to see that change very quickly if it hasn't changed already. There are a number of different software tools that you can use to evaluate different design elements on your page. Again, there are hundreds. These are just a handful that I picked. I have no affiliation with any of these companies, and that's true for just about every tool that I've shown you so far. I'm just giving you examples. And this is how some of these tools do that. So Optimizely is a tool that can be used to split test page performance. And I'll send a follow-up to anyone who's interested in learning more about how these tools work. The final thing I'm just going to point out has to do with your site's conversion rates. On the Blue Corona site, people can call us, people can email us. A lot of companies track this, submissions of these web forms, but they don't track the phone number. So if you were to go to Google and search Blue Corona and click an organic search result, you're going to get a page with a different phone number on it than if you go to our website directly. We use call tracking, and if you really want to understand your website's visit to lead conversion rates, if you get inquiries via phone, you've got to use call tracking. And when you're doing competitive analysis, look to see if your competitors are using call tracking. And if they're not, that can be a great advantage or a great place for you to get ahead. Again, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of different types of tools. This is just the tip of the iceberg with respect to tracking analytics. There's so much that you can do. What I hope you took away from this is that you really want to look at the tools that your competitors are using. You want to think about the information that you'd like to have from your website versus what you have today and try to close those gaps, and know that you have to customize the tools for your business. It's not the person with the most tools that wins. Don't make the mistake of doing that. Find the tools that are the right ones for your business and then customize them to help you get what you want. To learn more, I'd encourage you to go to our website, bluecorona.com/Vistage. You'll get a series of options, including, again, we're a national alliance partner, and as part of that, we'll do a complimentary digital competitive analysis at a summary level for your company, and if you give us 3 competitors, we'll include those. And I'm sure you're going to have lots of questions. I've gone through a lot of information. Feel free to contact me, Ben at bluecorona.com. As a fellow Vistage member, I will do my absolute best to answer whatever questions you have, and in the event that you need help and we seem to be a good fit, I'd love to help you. And at this point, I'm going to open it up for Q&A.
Ben, thank you so much. You covered all the questions that we had taken in, and unfortunately we're running short of time, so I'm going to encourage listeners, if you have questions, contact Ben at bluecorona.com. And I want to remind listeners that we have upcoming webinars, Fridays with Vistage, Friday, May 19th, 2017 at 10 a.m. Pacific, Culture by Design, Not Default, with Kathleen Quinn Voha. And you'll learn why should culture be part of your future planning, and how can you be purposeful and aim for culture by design, not default. On Friday, June 2nd at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, Engaging Your Team for Operational Excellence with Brian Deo. On behalf of Vistage Worldwide, this is Bill Black thanking Ben Landers and wishing you continued success.
This concludes today's webinar. Thank you for joining.